Hello builders, and welcome back to another video of the World Zoo project, a giant zoo where I am trying to build a habitat for every animal in the game. And in today's video I have for you the Caracal cats, a lovely little kitty cat going into our African section of the zoo. Now if you end up liking this video, make sure to click that like button, subscribe, and do all those YouTuber things. And don't forget to click the link in the description to join me over on Twitch, where I build this zoo and other things live. Now, let's get into the building now, shall we? Now, since these kitties are right beside the African leopards, I decided to copy and paste the building I had previously built for the African leopards, just to save myself a little bit of time, but also to keep the buildings a little bit more uniform in this section of the zoo. And this building, of course, is going to have a little area for guests to come underneath, as well as a glass ceiling for the cats to hang out above it. Aside from that, of course, we are going to be building a cave for them to sleep in. Every animal needs a little sleeping area, and I feel like these cats deserve their nice, luxurious cave to sleep in. Do they sleep in caves in the wild? Probably not, but at least here they got a big space to just relax in and get away from the heat or the rain or whatever weather is outside. Like all the other climbing animals, we will be filling this habitat and this cave with some climbing frames for them to hang out on. But first I will be throwing in some rocks as bases and then building the frames on top of it. Now here is a good tip for you if you struggle with building climb frames like I used to. Well, I say used to, I still struggle with them. Climbing frames have always been a bit of a sore spot for me, but I think I'm getting a little bit better at them. What I generally find works is if you place the larger platforms first, plan out all those, and then connect them up with all the beams and the little logs that attach it for the cats or whatever animal you are working on. Generally that works with most things when I am building. Work with the larger structures first and work your way down to the small details later. Oh, and let's not forget my regular tip I add in most of my videos is to be sure to do all these details before you put a roof on your structures. Putting a roof on just limits your camera movement and makes getting everything in a little bit more of a hassle and a big old pain in the butt. One thing I like to do with my climbing animals is always give them a raised up platform that they can climb out of to get out of their sleeping areas or into other little holes. Just something to raise them off the ground and makes their habitat a little bit more interesting to look at from the viewer's perspective. And sometimes you just have to get in here with the nitty-gritty after you put a roof on, especially when you're doing cave ceilings. So sometimes you just have to grit your teeth, get through it with that tight camera work, and just get that ceiling work done. Now let's take the fence over from the leopard habitat, just give it a little bit of a splash of color, and copy it over here for the Caracal cats. Now this may appear like I'm just being lazy and don't want to build a brand new fence, but well, okay, maybe that is part of it, but I also want this area to looking the same. It doesn't make a lot of sense to have every habitat having its own customized fence. You want to have a bit of a theme when you're doing your zoo, and having everything looking somewhat similar will help with that theme. Now we come to one of the most important parts of any build for a habitat. It is the rock work. Remember earlier how I said you need to start with the bigger bits and add in the details after? Well, there ain't nothing bigger than the rocks. The rocks will cover up the vast majority of the habitat, and we can come in later and work on all of the little plants and everything that goes around with them. But first, we gotta get that big old rock foundation in. So let's sit back, enjoy some music, and watch some rock work unfold. Just like that, all the rocks are complete. Well, the vast majority of them are. We might add a few more later. But now we can start working on some other key parts of the habitat, like these climbing frames. Like I mentioned before, we just want to add in the larger platforms first, and then we join it all together with all the little logs and other little conjoining pieces. Conjoining, is that a word? Maybe. I don't know. It could be. Regardless, I think you know what I mean. Anyways, let's ignore questionable English and grammar, and let's look at this lovely little treehouse I'm building. See, look at this. Isn't it great? Just to give the cats another little area to come sleep in if they don't want to stay in that cave, they can just sit out here in the treehouse and overlook their little private domain within the zoo. Now, a lovely building tip I have for you is to not skip on the details when you're working on your builds. For instance, this treehouse here, I decided to add in a couple little trimming pieces to the edges, such as these logs. Whenever you're working with flat walls, make sure to try and add a little bit extra to them to make them look a little bit more 3D and pop out just that much more. And if you're not too sure what to add, just go through the props. What I do when I'm filling a bit of writer's block, or in this case I guess builder's block, I will just scroll through the prop menu and just randomly select things and just see what works. Sometimes you might just get a little bit of inspiration by just looking at random pieces and just trying to figure out how to use them in different ways. Not to mention, it will help start training your brain how to think outside the box. Being creative is always a key to being a builder. And also, well, the other big key is probably patience. You need a lot of patience if you're going to be building this much detail into habitats. On average, these habitats will take anywhere from 2 to 4 hours to build, although that really depends on the size and also a few other factors, such as if I'm copying a few pieces from other habitats, like I did with this one. All things considered, I think this Caracal habitat probably took me about 2 to 3 hours to build, which is actually pretty surprising, all things considered, being that I usually spend a lot more time building the climbing frames. But for some reason, my brain just clicked during this one, and I managed to get them all done fairly quickly. That, and I'm probably also copying that whole main building at the center of the habitat, really helps save on some time. Now that all the climbing frames and enrichment items are in for the animals, we can finally start with the full decoration with the plants. Now, being that this is more of a desert and grassland habitat, we're not going to have too many plants roaming around, although I will still make it look pretty with a few patches of green here and there. I feel like plants are probably my biggest weakness when I am building habitats. Not so much in that the look of them, but I usually end up putting way too many of them. Especially for these grassland and desert habitats, I just have to put plants everywhere. I just feel the need to fill space up, but it's something I need to work on. Although in this case I allow myself to make it look really green and pretty around the water source and the sprinkler up on the hill there, being that it is just, well, there's going to be a lot of water, there's going to be a lot of green plants growing there. That is at least my logic behind it. Now, as we finish off the plants and complete this habitat, let's do an outro for the video, as we are nearing the end of this build for today. I've hoped you enjoyed this one for the Caracal cats. I've always enjoyed building things in Plant Zoo, and that's why I decided to do this project that would build a habitat for every animal in the game. And some important note on that, this last weekend as of recording, I had finished this project over on Twitch. Link to that down below if you want to click there and come join me. Anyways, this zoo is now complete and every animal in the game is in there, all 210 species, quite the big milestone, and I want to thank everyone who's been a part of it, as anyone who follows me over on Twitch has their name in the zoo as a special thank you. And of course, I will continue to upload these videos to YouTube as a means of showing off what I have built previously, although this will be going on for quite a while as I have a huge backlog of videos to get through. After all, I do work a full-time job and I can only edit one video a week, and I usually build about 2 habitats on average on a weekend when I stream. Aside from these videos, I will also be uploading this entire zoo to the workshop soon, so there will be a video on the channel announcing that as well. But first, I do intend to do a final send-off tour for this video over on Twitch on a weekend coming up soon. Anyways though, that's enough rambling and about self-promotion and all that. Let's just end it here with a final cinematic road tour for the Caracal Cat habitat. Well, builders, have a good one. Thanks again. Goodbye.